Hello, everybody. My name is Hannah, and I'm here sitting with Dr. Elizabeth Wolfson, and I'm very grateful to be sitting here and speaking with you tonight. Thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here, and thank you, everybody, for having me and showing up tonight. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So I am really curious to hear more about your practice as a psychotherapist, and specifically about where in your practice psychedelics became an interest. And if you want to set us up with a little bit of that origin story.
Well, it started when I was born. No, I'm kidding. Because that would be a very long story. So I was a therapist for many years, trained classically, and moved up, as many therapists do, into managing, supervising, running organizations, and spent a lot of my energy on social justice and fighting injustice, and moved into academia full-time, where I developed a program in healthy aging and somatic psychotherapy, and it kind of came together with the body really becoming very important, and the somatics of how we process information. And then I got trained in trauma. And meanwhile, I was having my own trauma because of my hook into injustice. And it was kind of destroying me, because I imagine if some of you are feeling the events of what's going on in our world today, you get very hooked in, and it can really be triggering. And I was telling a friend who's a therapist, and she said, well, you should see this person I know. And I went to see this person who turned out to be a psychedelic guide. And I hadn't done psychedelics for like 30 years. I totally forgot about it, in fact. So I was raising my kids and doing my career. And I just submitted to the experience, and in 7 hours I did 7 years of therapy. And then I knew there was no going back, and I had to study this, and I had to work with my clients this way. And I also knew it was not legal. And found out about a program in San Francisco called Certificate in Psychedelic Therapy and Research. Did that program with no idea what I was going to do with it afterwards. And then I did training in Ketamine-Assisted Therapy, no idea what I was going to do. And suddenly this job appeared after I got all my certificates, and became a VP of Clinical Services for an international Ketamine-Assisted Therapy company, which had 15 clinics in 3 countries. And I was learning as I was building the plane, as I was flying it, and teaching people how to fly it at the same time. And I learned so much and really immersed myself in the work and all kinds of trainings, et cetera. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. I mean, what I received from that is that you were in your practice, but feeling weighted by the injustice you were witnessing. And so someone guided you to this psychedelic realm where you were able to receive really radical healing, and that shifted the trajectory of your interest in how you served.
Of my entire life.
Yeah.
And my approach to life. So that injustice will continue, but how we respond to it is a choice. And I only learned that through the psychedelic experience. And it wasn't overnight. It wasn't immediate. And this is an important piece. It's not a magic bullet. You have to work it. You have to really reflect on the experience and why you had a certain experience to start to integrate it into your future, into your actions moving forward. And I'm still integrating that.
I understand that process of integration and how it continues. And as your awareness expands, your relationship to that previous experience is seen in a new light. And a moment ago, I did hear you say the word somatics. And I'd love for you to provide your own personal definition of what that is, and maybe the relationship to psychedelic integration and somatics.
The body tells the truth. That's all I know. And that's where we have to start. It's the beginning. It's our birth, and it's the end. And when in doubt, just pay attention to your breath. And you know, I used to think these things were hokey. Actually, I'm from New York, and I'd be like, that's a California thing. But it's very real. It's very real. Whenever you feel anxious, nervous, worried, have a question even, you just come to your breath, because it's just the most natural thing we do, is just breathing. And it's just very grounding. So all that discovery about the body and what it has to tell us also informs my work. And, people will be up in their heads and, trying to explain something. And all I have to say is, what do you feel in your body right now? What do you notice? Where do you feel it? Oh, I feel a little tension in my shoulder. What is that saying to you? What's happening in your shoulder? Too much there, too much going on. And that's where we get the work done. So the body is super important, and I never learned anything about the body in all of my master's and doctoral programs, and still, I had to teach myself.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really grateful that you're now offering that to the people in the communities that you serve. Personally, I also offer a body-based coaching methodology, and somatics are incredibly important, in my perspective, to anyone interested in the trauma healing journey. And the breath is a beautiful gateway and is always available when we choose to tune in. Yeah. And so I was reading a bit on your website on how you describe yourself and what you offer, and something I found interesting was this theme of creativity. And creativity is important to me personally, and I was wondering how you see the relationship to creativity and perhaps the influence on psychedelics, but really I was thinking the relationship to creativity and problems in one's life and the influence there.
Well, this is a spoiler. The last line of my talk is, so we can skip the whole thing, is the act of surviving is a creative act. And creativity is what moves us forward. It's what drives us energetically. And people get a little intimidated when you talk about that. They're like, oh, I'm not an artist, I'm not a musician, I'm not a writer. But just living is about creativity. And I personally love developing things. I've always been kind of like a project person. I create projects in my dreams. It's kind of crazy. And in my psychedelic journeys, because it creates inspiration. It gives you a direction, a place to go, and just energizes you. And I think there's so much creativity in life that we miss if we don't look, if we don't really notice it. And that's especially, in everyday life, but also in our dreams and in psychedelic journeys. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, because all of that, there's so much creative information there. So it's all pretty exciting that we can access it.
Yeah, and I'm really grateful to be, reminding our community of the choice of that exploration of a more creative pathway. And it's my sense that the exploration of psychedelics in a healing and therapeutic setting is expansive to one's awareness of the available creative pathways to take. Yeah. And I heard you say that, your early psychedelic experience is really what changed your frame on how you related to the world around you. And if there's a couple key principles to that framework that's true for you today, that you would like to share.
Well, letting go is, I think, for me, that's the operative mantra, because we want to control, we want to direct, I want you to be like me or like what I like, or, I want this to work out the way I want it to work out. And so much of life is full of surprises. And if we can see them as surprises rather than, oh, I didn't get what I want, I guess that's important. And it's related to my battle with injustice, which is it happens, and I can't always manage it. I can't always fix it. I can't respond to it necessarily in the way I prefer, but there are other ways. So all I can say is, when in doubt, let go. And you'll feel such relief and comfort. Sleep better.
Dream better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And in that letting go, there's the connection to the breath as well. Mm-hmm. It's Like even if maybe we feel we can't let go of a certain life circumstance or something that we've seen or heard, we can put emphasis to letting go of that exhale and cultivate a sense of relief there. And I am excited for you to delve more into your presentation on dreams. But before we get into that, I have a few rapid fire style questions that I'd like to ask you.
Uh-oh. Go for it. We didn't prepare any of this. I have no idea what she's going to ask me.
I would like to ask you, what person was your greatest influence and why?
There are some in here who probably know the answer to that. I'd like to say, it was the Dalai Lama or Gandhi or somebody, but it was really Bob Dylan. I'm sorry. There are no truths outside the gates of Eden, and he has really got his finger on the poetic pulse of the collective conscious and unconscious, in my opinion. We're very lucky to be alive while he's here.
I appreciate that.
I'd tell the truth.
Yeah, totally.
No, because this guy knows if he gets me talking about Bob Dylan, this will be the whole conversation tonight. So we're not going to discuss that. Go ahead.
I just want to say that I personally relate to Bob Dylan very closely because my dad has been in a cover band for my entire life. So I feel you.
More synchronicity here.
And this might be a related question, but if you were alone on a deserted island, what is the book that you would bring with you?
Something by Rumi. Just because every passage written by Rumi is a book in itself. So it could do me well for a while. It's just beautiful. Yeah. I go to him often when I need something. So Rumi, highly recommended.
And when you read a piece by Rumi, how does it feel in your body?
You're such a good somatic therapist. Feels like letting go. Feels like, he gets it.
So you're on the island. You're breathing well because you're reading Rumi.
And I have you to guide me.
You actually have one vinyl album that you can bring as well.
Well, this goes back to the other. No, I'd probably bring Leonard Cohen with me because he's just so more comforting. Bob's a little... yeah.
Yeah. So we have a read and some music to bring on a sense of comfort while you're on the island. Yeah, that feels good. And the next question I'll ask is, do we live in a simulation?
Do I understand your question?
Would love to hear your interpretation or what you want to make it mean.
What I'm hoping we talk about tonight is how everything is a simulation, that there is no reality. I mean, this feels kind of like a dream too. I'm sitting here, I'm talking, you're interviewing me, there's people looking. I don't know, is this real? Is this any more real than what I dreamt last night? Which was about more people looking at me while I have a lot of those dreams. And so the distinction between reality and dream and psychedelic journey, I think, is false. So everything is a simulation in that sense.
Yeah, thank you for your creativity on that one. And I feel you. And with these questions, I encourage you to just follow that flow of creativity and just let the question inspire whatever wants to come through. But the next is, do you believe in an afterlife? And if so, what do you think it is? And through psychedelics, can we access portions of it?
I don't know if I believe in an afterlife. I know there's more than what we see. I think there are other dimensions. I don't know where they are. I don't know if they're before or after, during, even here in this room. So I guess I believe in things I don't see. And I think we channel them if we pay attention, that there's a lot of things happening energetically, even right now, that if we really notice, we could pick up on. And I know that I've had a lot of experiences of synchronicity and intuitive experiences that I cannot identify their origin, and so I do believe in that.
Thanks for sharing that. And I like that you don't seem to be too interested in figuring the afterlife piece out.
Well, I think we'll know when we get there, maybe.
Yeah.
So.
And if you could take psychedelics with any person, dead or alive, who and what substance would you choose?
Wow, that's really hard. Any person, dead or alive? I don't know. I think I'd end up doing it with myself, because everybody, I think Bob Dylan makes me too nervous. I think my many selves, that's who I would do it with and make peace with that.
Yeah, beautiful.
And the substance, it's hard to know, and because all the substances impact us so differently in different points of our life, at different days of the year. So I might mix it up a little bit.
Yeah. I got from that you would just feel into whatever medicine is the medicine of that moment for you to sit with and integrate all of those aspects of yourself. Maybe even those multidimensional aspects from the past and future. Yeah. Cool. I like that. Yeah. And is there a substance that you are fascinated with but haven't yet tried?
I'm not ashamed to say I've probably done them all. I don't think it's about the substance. I think it's about the mindset and the setting and your state of mind, your state of being in relation to the medicine and what the medicine is going to show you at that particular time. So it's such a complexity of variables coming together.
Yeah. I'm hearing that it's not about the substance, it's about your relationship to it.
Yeah, the experience, I want to see God. I do want to see God. I want to see the afterlife or the previous life. So if that's more the question, what do I want? Yeah, I want to see that.
Yeah. I think those are great curiosities to bring to the medicine space. And have those always been questions present for you outside of your psychedelic exploration?
No, because I don't actually believe in God. So I want to see something that doesn't exist. It's kind of confusing. So I think it's more about wanting more knowledge and being curious and knowing that there's always more terrain to cover, more to learn from. And that's, I think, a big part of the pursuit of the psychedelic experience, probably for many of you, or anything new that you pursue, is we do have a thirst for creativity and knowledge and information and enlightenment.
And would you like to provide personal insight to what enlightenment is to you in your reality?
God, no.
I feel it's subjective often.
So you're asking me, what does enlightenment mean to me? Oh, it's really basic. Why are we here? Why are we here? All these beautiful souls in this room. Why are we here? What are we doing? It's not about purpose. It's just how did we end up here?
I like that. Yeah. And I want to come back to your current practice and what you offer, because you do offer psychedelic supportive psychotherapy. And in your current chapter of being in service as a psychotherapist, what demographic is inspiring you, and how are you serving them today?
Well, I want to be clear that I don't offer psychedelics in my practice. I only offer ketamine-assisted therapy, which is the only legal psychedelic for licensed therapists to use professionally. Psychedelic supportive therapy is something I offer, and I just want to make sure people understand the distinction. That's kind of the bookends of the medicine journey, where I and any of you who are therapists in this room can legally provide support for someone in your practice who is thinking about a journey, has done a journey, wants to tell you about a journey. I can help prepare people, and I don't do the medicine journey with them. I can also support the other side, the integration. What did that journey do for you? What did it mean to you? How do you want to translate it into your life? So that's the work I do. The demographic is anybody, like any of you who find me. Yeah, I don't work with young kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess a zoom into that question is, do you often work with people in their preparation or integration stages who haven't explored psychedelics and they're processing their first journey with you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's common.
Mm-hmm.
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 And is there a theme that you track in that demographic? Yeah,
it's people go in with all kinds of expectations, and again, letting go is the operative word here, and people are just usually surprised because it's almost never what they thought it would be, but it's something else that they didn't know. So there's just so much learning that goes on there too. Yeah.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing about that. I do want to give you ample space for your dream state presentation and workshop piece. So is there anything else that you would like to share in this portion before our transition?
No, you're an awesome interviewer, so thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you, everybody, for your presence and your listening. I am going to transition out of this space into our next segment. So thank you all. And I think I'm handing it off to you, Rob.
Not yet. Almost. Yeah, I'm just going to throw in my intro, and then we're going to do something else. But yeah, I just want to say, how did this all come about? I believe that psychedelics, journeys, and dream states have so many similarities, and it really just struck me over and over again how much we can learn about how to optimize the psychedelic experience based on what we know about dreams, because there has been plenty of study of dreams, and almost nothing about how psychedelic journeys and dreams are similar, other than from a neuropsychological physiological perspective. And I just became very interested more in the impact on the psyche. So I started reading about it, and there wasn't much to read, which really shocked me, because to me the analogies were so clear. But I did and researched and came up with some information that I'm going to share with you now that I've done that. But I want to say I'm not going to be focusing on what happen in the brain chemistry. That's not my area of expertise, nor so much my interest, but how it affects the psyche, how it affects your spirit, your mind, your heart, your soul, your belief, your actions in the world if you do a psychedelic journey. And we all have dreams. How many of you remember your dreams? Oh, wow, that's a lot of people in the room. Some going like this. So we don't always remember our dreams, right? And how many of you have had a psychedelic journey? Good proportion of you. Okay, so I'm very interested. I hope we do have conversation about this on your input on the similarities that you might see. But again, what I want to say, I'm not coming here with expertise. I'm coming here with information I've gathered and questions, and years, 3 decades in clinical practice as a psychotherapist, and training and developing programs. And as someone who is trauma-informed, person-centered, and integrative in my work, I don't ascribe to a particular theoretical approach, but I draw from whatever feels right for the client. And at this point, I know a lot of the approaches, so I'm lucky, because I can sit with a client and say, I think what you might benefit from is X, Y, and Z, and I can pull that out of my toolbox. And I've had, as you heard, good, solid training in psychedelic-assisted therapy, ketamine-assisted therapy. But I'm coming here with a lot of questions, too, so I just want to frame it that way. But before we start, I do want to give you all a gift, and that is a poem that, for tonight, that I'm going to ask my assistant friend, Rob Sedan, to read to you. So thank you, Hannah.
Hi. I just feel that in the psychedelic experience that we're sort of simulating here, I'm having it, and this is not about me, but I gotta say that my being here is so trippy because I don't really live here. My parents live here. I went dancing to the ecstatic dance on Sunday for the first time, and I met Hannah, who sent me some links about this place, and only yesterday I opened it up, the link, and saw that the speaker was Elizabeth. I mean, I probably only know 10 people in this whole town, and then I called her as I guess you're speaking tomorrow, and so this is how I'm here. And
I've known Rob for about 14 years, and we bonded around Bob Dylan. I'll just say.
Yeah, we speak in lyrics to each other. But thank you for letting me assist you today, and to read this poem by John Donahue, which obviously speaks to injustice, which is clearly on your mind. And the name of the poem is called A Blessing for Peace. As the fever of the day calms toward twilight, may all that is strained in us come to ease. We pray for all who suffered violence today. May an unexpected serenity surprise them. For those who risk their lives each day for peace, may their hearts glimpse providence at the heart of history. For those who make riches from violence and war, might hear in their dreams the cries of the lost. That we might see through our fear of each other a new vision to heal our fatal attraction to aggression. That those who enjoy the privilege of peace might not forget their tormented brothers and sisters. That the wolf might lie down with the lamb. That our swords be beaten into plowshares, and no hurt or harm be done anywhere along the holy mountain.
Thank you. A communal gathering is a holy experience to me, and I didn't feel I could begin without acknowledging the harm going on out there, and our attention to it, and our prayer for peace. And in this moment, I invite us all to just share that. And thanks, Rob, for leading that. So I'm going to move into this topic of dreams first, and psychedelics, and then look at the analogy. As I'm talking, And I will go through some of the literature. I hope it doesn't come off too dry, but it's important to have context. I really want to invite us to come back to this recognition that what we think is reality is an illusion, that things are always dreamlike in a way, that these distinctions between what's real and what's not are false and misleading. And so then the line between imagination and dream and what we call reality and the psychedelic experience, it's all one continuum. And if any of you have had, I know I've had many experiences that felt dreamlike, and they were more real than I might have wished them to be sometimes. Okay, another digression. I hope this doesn't go. So I'm reading the Carl Knausgaard's new book. Have any of you read it yet? Carl Ove Knausgaard's new book. And he has this weird piece in the beginning, and it's not a spoiler because it's right at the beginning, where some pubescent kid goes on a walk in the forest, and he's just having his morose moment in the dark in the forest, and he sees there's light coming from this. He's on a bridge, and in the water there's light. And he sees there's headlights that a car has submerged itself. And he's like, what is this? How could that be? How could a car be in the lights? And he said, it must have just happened. And then the kid goes back home and goes to sleep, and that's the end of it. And for the rest of his life, he says, I keep this secret. I could have saved that person. So I don't know how it all turns out because I'm still in the beginning of the book, which is long. But so I thought about that because it's very hard to distinguish. And he says it was almost like it's just a dream. I wasn't sure it really happened. I wasn't sure I really saw it. And yet we have so many of these experiences. And I guess I'm going to share with this very intimate group that I was less than 2 weeks ago watching the sunset over a cliff in the Douglas Preserve, and a woman disappeared over the cliff. And I was the only witness. And when it happened, this is not about my therapy because I've been working on it, but I didn't believe it. I thought, she must have found a path. And I got up and I was going to continue my walk, and nobody else was changed by the experience. And then I stopped myself and I said, wait a minute. And there were two girls, and I said, did you see that woman over the cliff? And they jumped up and they looked over and they saw that she had in fact stepped over the cliff. She didn't survive. We called 911 and things happened after that. But I share this because of this very interesting moment I had of, did that really happen? Did it not happen? So have any of you ever had that? Where something real happens, but it's so unreal that you think you just could have imagined it. And that's a whole other story, which I won't go into, but I'm learning from it. I'm working it as a way of understanding why I was there and what I can take away from it. And letting go is a big part of that. Letting go. But this is, it just folded in synchronistically to my thinking a lot about dreams and reality and the lack of distinction here. And if we really look, that's a tragic experience, but so much beauty in it in a way. It's really profound that something so big can just happen in everyday life, and we just go on and we doubt ourselves. So here's that moment where you really want to check in to your inner reality, I guess, and say, what am I seeing? What am I experiencing? What do I need to reflect on? What are the actions that should follow? And again, just as in dreams, in real life and in psychedelic experience, those are your operative strategies. So it all kind of comes together. So, and then the question is, well, we reflect on them. Well, how do we, then they go away. But we need to record them. And so with dreams, psychedelic states, you want to write them down. How many of you record your dreams? Just a few of us. Yeah. I will say this, that I really believe with all my heart that if we don't pay attention to our dreams, we are missing such a big part of ourselves. It's a huge part of you. And to ignore that is doing yourself, you're really obliterating yourself in a way by ignoring that. So I encourage you. It's really easy, 2 seconds to write down what happened, and then it's recorded. And then once you've written it down, it's a commitment, because now you always have it. And you can go back and you can learn from it and you can see patterns if you care to. Same with your psychedelic experiences. So all of that, just food for thought. It's a hefty meal I just delivered, I think. But but I'm going to talk about, so what do we know about dreams that we can learn from this to understand our psychedelic experiences? And I found one study that actually did look at similarities in the benefits of personal development and well-being that compares psychedelic and dream states. It was a doctoral study in 2020, and it found that both psychedelic and dream states offer expanded perspective on events, which can affect your emotive response to fear, threat, and the memory. They both can enhance problem solving, creativity, learning, and behavioral changes, self-awareness, sense of purpose, and psychological well-being. So where the researcher landed is that this is actually a good starting point for really finding out what can we do with that information if we know that there are these similarities. So that's what I'm hoping to talk about today. So what is a dream? And what is a psychedelic medicine experience? So we're going to do a little bit of that. APA, the American Psychological Association, defines a dream state as altered states of consciousness characterized by internally generated verbal, cognitive, emotive, and sensory occurrences which may evolve in actions developing imaginary plots. It's a mouthful, but I think you get it. So cultures throughout history have given great weight to dreams. They have a rich source of information connecting cultures with spiritual, religious functions, full of symbols, guidelines, messages from spirits, gods, and other supernatural beings, with shamans entering into altered dream states in which they can contact spirits and promote healing. In many traditions, it's believed that dreams are produced by spirits, maybe the afterlife, and can include important information about past or future events, and that during dreams, the dreamer wanders outside of their body and communicates with gods and spirits. Some see dreams as tools for communicating with sacred deities, ancestors, and access a certain power gleaned from them. They're seen as divine sources of information, help to heal from illness, and it's all in the Bible, Roman mythology, and Homer talked about that as well. Contemporary research on dreams evolved as psychoanalysts paid attention to dreams as a way of understanding waking life, emotions, and conflicts, inner conflicts. Freud famously calling dreams the royal road to the unconscious. I always love that, the royal road to the unconscious. Classic psychoanalysts view dreams as manifestations of unrealized urges, desires, and internal conflicts, suffering, and unspoken sexual drives, influenced by past recent events and stimuli. Freud's theories influenced people like Alfred Adler, who viewed dreams as a window into an expression of character and personality, which could help in problem solving. Carl Jung considered dreams to be impartial, spontaneous products of the unconscious psyche outside the control of the will, showing us the unvarnished natural truth aimed at restoring psychological balance and perspective. Jung saw dreams as a process in which the conscious and unconscious are bridged by images, associations, artistic manifestations, archetypes, and myths to foster self-integration and integrate in harmonious and healthy ways. He's really the first to use that term, integration. Enabling individuation. He encouraged the continuation of a dream in the service of alleviating symptoms. So what else would the dream show you if it were to continue? And in the dream tending approach developed by Steve Eisenstadt, who's local here, he cultivated what might be applied to as the tending of the experience, and what I think of as he called it dream tending, and I'm thinking about psychedelic journey tending as very similar. We can do both, and which I'll talk about later, and which I do in my practice. A few other thought leaders worth mentioning include Erich Fromm, who emphasized the problem-solving mechanism of dreams, and psychoanalyst Montague Ullman, who thought dreams reflected one's true emotional states. The neurocognitive model sees dreaming as high-level mental simulations, there's that word, of the real world, preparing the dreamer to function in waking state. According to Hobson and McFarley, dreams are byproducts of neuropsychological physiological processes which automatically occur during REM sleep, leaving the content of dreams unexplained. So there are scientists who think that we shouldn't make anything of dreams. So within the psychotherapeutic process, attention to dreams tends to focus on helping clients recall the content and the associated feelings, including the unconscious, to foster better understanding of past, present, and future motivations and interactions, and the self as a whole. So with this in mind, I see a way of creating parallels between understanding dreams and understanding the psychedelic experience. So what is a psychedelic experience? And I apologize for those of you who are highly familiar and educated on it, but I'll just give a little bit of 101. So like dreams, psychedelics states alter perception, mood, and cognitive processes in ways which might create connection to understanding of the self, and it is believed this is most enhanced when supported within a psychotherapeutic container, or what is known as psychedelic-assisted therapy. And the word psychedelic, any of you know where that comes from? Somebody in the back, Jacob? Is it my manifestation? Very good. Or psyche manifesting. And there's also the term entheogen. Anybody want to guess what that means? What? Promoting empathy. Well, it comes from the ancient entheos, which means inspired or deity, and genesis, which means becoming. So mostly we tend to use the term psychedelic versus entheogen. I don't know why, it's just what caught on, I suppose. And in psychedelics, we have essentially three categories: the psychoactive plant medicine, and DMT, or 5-MeO DMT, which is plants and toad venom, and then the manufactured LSD, MDMA, and ketamine, which ketamine has its controversy as whether is it really a psychedelic because it has a different impact on its receptors of the brain. But I look, again, less on brain activity and more on outcome. Do clients have a psychedelic experience with ketamine? Absolutely. So while it doesn't work the same way as classic psychedelics on the brain, it certainly has a similar subjective experience on the psyche. So since antiquity, many cultures believe the ingestion of a psychedelic has a power to unite one with a deity and provide a communion between a person and the divine. In shamanism, they were and still are used to achieve altered states of consciousness, communicate with spirit or ancestors, diagnose or cure diseases, gain power, wisdom, or control over natural phenomena. I won't go into the whole history because it's long, but suffice it to say that psychedelic plants have been around a very long time and were and are treated by indigenous cultures as teachers with hidden knowledge and can access metaphysical realms. And I do see the psychedelics that way. I think we really need to honor and appreciate them. So the first wave of the investigation of psychedelics, I'll try to go through that, was specifically around mescaline. The second wave came when Huffman synthesized LSD in 1943 and then became distributed for purposes primarily of conducting studies. And the changes that were observed were these altered cognitions, perceptions, emotions, and sense of self, and enhanced positive worldview. And as researchers started to see this, they're like, wow, this stuff has potential, which led to further research and development of the chemicals. Aldous Huxley made his own observations about how it unblocked The defenses of unconscious material came to the surface, and primary process thinking, which is really the creative self, would come to the surface. So Nixon's war on drugs changed everything, as we know. And so everything went underground. Through the 60s, the use of psychedelic drugs was restricted really just to very limited studies, and even very few then, with many countries even banning research. So we are now what seems to be a third wave, what is being called a psychedelic renaissance. Very exciting time to be around. Starting in the early 2000s, this feels like just yesterday, as clinical studies have expanded, they're aided by new technology, development of cognitive neuroscience, and political shifts. And we've identified, a lot of potential here in neurodynamic shifts in human perception, emotion, cognition, consciousness, and expanded research is documenting changes in positive response and a decrease in negative response, decrease in real affective experiences such as depression, anxiety, anger, enhanced self-acceptance and receptivity. A lot of good stuff coming out. So in some of the research, the psychedelic experience has been embedded within what's called a psychotherapeutic or psychedelic-assisted therapy context, because we really want to test out what all that's about. And so 3 fundamental phases are identified. So I'm just going to give you a little bit on psychedelic-assisted therapy. And many of you may know this, and I talked a little bit about what therapists can legally do. So it's really, the preparation, the medicine journey, and the integration are the 3 segments that are identified. You are sitting with a trained, experienced therapist who guides you, and it is not the only way to do psychedelics. It is the psychotherapeutic experience that I'm describing here. For all of the psychedelic experience, it has been found that the key to all of it is your intentions going into the journey. It's your mindset, and the preparation is what the psychotherapist can help you do, or the guide, and the main message being openness and curiosity. If you remember anything, remember that. That's a theme we will keep coming back to. The preparation also includes nuts and bolts, things like exercise, diet, self-care, really important body pieces, exploration of challenges, vulnerability, strengths, coping strategies. And all of that is a way to create a safe container, because we don't know what the hell's going to happen when you take the medicine. And that's the truth. Nobody knows. And if anyone tries to tell you this is what's going to happen, it's an open question. And all we can do is submit. And the only way to submit is if you feel safe. And the best way to feel safe, I believe, is with that kind of preparation, the mindset that you want to try to approach it with, and in the presence of someone who can help keep you safe, because you don't know what's going to happen to you. And it's good to have another person there who's going to take care. And I'm not actually talking about physical safety, because the dangers of that are so few unless you're, out and about where you shouldn't be. But that's super important. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But, this is what we call, the set and setting. You'll hear that over and over again in psychedelic psychotherapeutic work. Setting referring to the physical space, the environment, and set your mindset, such as your expectations, your mood, your approach, whatever's occupying your psyche, including your life stresses, your challenges, your traumas, your conflicts. So here's where therapists, guides, and sitters can all really help you in that immersion. And it's not unusual, have to say, that for difficult and traumatic experiences to happen in the psychedelic exploration, just as in dreams, we go to sleep. We don't know what's going to happen. We could... I could have my recurring dream where my car doesn't work. I don't know what's going to happen when I go to sleep. And yet we trust it, right? We go to sleep. And sometimes fantastic things happen. And it's very similar with the psychedelic experience. And what's different is that real trauma can come up as a result of that unblocking of the defenses, that openness, that receptivity, and things that are buried that you yourself may not be aware of. And that scares people a lot, but it's really, there's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so, or what's in you is what's real and what you might be afraid to connect to. We'll talk about that a little more. But the psychedelic session is an opportunity to connect with those parts of yourself that we don't always have the opportunity to do, to process and to make meaning of it, just as in dreams. And it's the remembering of it, the reflecting upon it, and the processing, ideally in the presence of a competent witness or facilitator, which can illuminate what that meaning of that dream or that psychedelic journey was, and as a way of translating it into the language of action into our lives. So the key is to be mindful in approaching the experience, whether it's your dream or your psychedelic journey, above all with openness and curiosity within a safe environment, reflecting and processing. And so we now understand a little bit more about what's a dream and what's a psychedelic experience. And so I'm just going to, again, identify the similarities and differences in both dreams and psychedelic states. We could see changes in the amygdala, the hippocampus, and emotional regulation. In both dreaming and psychedelic states, we consolidate new information. We allow for new coping and associations, which may actually temper difficult challenges, calming the spirit. Both dreams and psychedelic medicine can enhance creative problem solving, focus, self-actualization, and creative process. They both take the form of vivid hallucinatory experiences which alter perception. Our sense of body and self is changed, and the dreamer may experience depersonalization or derealization, disconnect from reality. Both states can cause mystical, transcendent experiences. Mysterious things show up in our dreams and our psychedelic journeys, and they can be marked by feelings of ecstasy, awe, grace, joy, vitality, and energy, a sense of liberation from everyday entanglements, a feeling of limitlessness, a feeling of connectedness, identification with external divinity or the divine within the self, our unity with all beings, our connection to our phones, our dreams, and it comes up in psychedelic journeys all the time. And all of this, both in dreams and psychedelics, can really be transformative in terms of our attitude to living and our connection to our existential values and overall well-being, and maybe we'll find the reason why we're all here. It's also important to note that both states can cause trauma, or not cause trauma, activate trauma is a much more accurate word. Activating negative images and emotions may also serve us, but here's what I truly believe. There are no bad trips. There are only hard trips. And every hard trip is an opportunity to learn. So, wow, that was rough. Okay, what do I learn from it? What was the message there? Why did that come up? And that's so rich. It's so beautiful. So it's not necessarily a whole lot of fun going into a psychedelic journey, but talk about enlightening. So, I want to say it's all tra-la-la, butterflies and roses. It's not. There's a lot of thorns in there. And it takes courage. But it seems to me that what presents in the psychedelic journey, like dreams, serves as the royal road to the unconscious. And these images, these processes invite our attention. They invite us to access ourselves more fully and our purpose in the service of psychological, spiritual, emotional development, well-being. This is integration, which Jung described as a process of making oneself whole and fostering connection to the self. And here's a description of integration, which I like, by Borzat. And so integration is the component after the psychedelic journey where you start to make sense of what happened there. She says it's the process of bringing separate elements together into a whole. The art of weaving the extraordinary and the ordinary, interpreting a journey's mythical and symbolic layers, revealing its gifts and treasures and anchoring them into our lives. And some of the differences between dreams and psychedelic states include that physiological characteristics ascribed to psychedelic experience are not necessarily the same as dream states. The perspective in being of a dream is one of protagonist, but the dreamer doesn't always necessarily identify themselves as a protagonist. So you understand, you're just in the dream. You're not like looking at who's doing the action necessarily, although in lucid dreaming you might be doing that. That's a different topic. But in psychedelic journey, you're usually pretty aware of that. In psychedelic experiences, there may be unique changes in visual perception, perhaps an intensification of visual imagery, escalations of color, light, texture, contours, sound, synesthesia, which is when the brain combines multisensory input. Do you understand? So I once was looking at the sun and I could hear the beating of a drum accompanying the vibrational turn of the sun. And that's synesthesia, the confounding of different sensory experiences of my visual with my hearing. So that eradication of duality is most uniquely experienced in psychedelic, where the journeyer has this enhanced feeling of connectedness to the universe, to the environment, to all sentient beings, and this overall positive affective state, a sense of relational openness, gratitude, benevolence, because you're part of something larger, part of seeing beyond reality, part of understanding that what you see is not what you get, that there's more, that life is but a dream. So now, Rob, you have a job. That rhymes.
I've been tasked to very complicated task. We're gonna sing a medley, very complicated lyrics. You might have heard it before. It's row, row, row your boat. I can start, and then I'm hoping that I've never really led this. I think back in 5th grade was the last time this happened to me. But I think we can pull it off. The lyrics, they're complicated, but here it's row, row, row your boat gently down the stream.
They're not singing. No.
That's just a warm up. That's just they know the lyrics.
Okay.
I can vouch that they know
I'll
the
let go.
lyrics.
Okay.
So we could let's do this. Let's divide the room in 3. Maybe this sort of rough group here would be 1, and then this group here could be 2, and then the back could be 3. Let's kick in with group 1. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Row, row, row. God.
They have.
I know. I actually screwed it up. Try again? Yeah. All right. We'll only go 1 round on 1 since we know we can do it twice. And then, when do I kick in?
They have to come in during.
Right. Yeah. Good.
When they go merrily, this group has to go row.
Okay.
Let's just do 2 groups. Make it simple.
2 groups only? 2 groups only.
I'm not letting
right.
go.
Right.
I'm being bossy. 2 groups.
All right. Again. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Row, merrily, merrily, boat gently down the stream. boat gently down the stream. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. I think you got the gist.
Thank you.
It's only been 50 years.
So that is one of the most profound songs I've ever heard. And I mean that in all seriousness, because what are we doing? Row, row, row. We get up, we go, to the supermarket, row. Life is but a dream, and then So coming back, that there's no dividing line between dream and reality. Life is but a dream. There's no real line between imagination, dream, journey. Reality itself is a dream. It's all of equal value. So I guess my message is, value your dreams, value your psychedelic journeys. They are truth tellers, no different than waking life, with limitless avenues for growth. The Buddha might say this world is not solid, lasting, and independent, which is to say the world is like a dream, full of surprises, unexpected events, and synchronicity. But if you start to pay attention, it becomes bidirectional or reciprocal, right? So your daytime practice of understanding life as a dream makes you pay attention, and then the dream appears as reality, or the psychedelic journey is the reality. And so all of it becomes important because it's all a part of you. It's all a reflection of all the stuff, complexity going on here in your multidimensional self, which is, it's like gold. You want to grab it. You don't want it to slip away when you wake up and, read the newspaper before you remember your dream. As Marion Woodman, the Jungian analyst, said, we all have within us this great river in our psyche. And once you get into the flow of that river, you begin to experience all these synchronistic events, to realize that the outer and inner are in fact the same. And the balance is when they come together. So the suggestion here is that immersion into dreams and journey is a process which connects to the self, to the inner outer self, and to our inner mythology. We all have a story in here. It's very complex. Lots of it we don't even know. We don't even remember. But we can take ourselves into an expanded state of examining our own potential, or what we call self-integration. And by the way, it's not just with dreams and psychedelics, but you can include practices like meditation and breath work. And so, for example, Stan Grof developed holotropic breath work as a moving towards the fullness of the self, or an expanded state of consciousness. And in breath work, when the psyche is activated, a wisdom from within us, which he believes is innately within us, emerges. That's our inner healer. And that's what the medicine delivers as well, if we're open to it. I have some more things, but I think I'm going to go here for the practices for holding the gold of what's in us. So we've already talked about, look, you can do medicine journeys alone. You can do it with a friend, you can do it with a sitter, you can do it with a guide. It's not necessarily psychotherapeutic. I'm a therapist. I believe in therapy. I think it really helps people connect to themselves in a deep and safe way that is not necessarily true when you're with your best friend or your partner, or someone who really may not be able to hold whatever trauma, whatever challenges come up. So you want to really trust that. Set and setting or everything. But the attitude, how you enter into the journey, curiosity, trusting the healing intelligence of the medicine and your own inner healer, as well as the facilitator. I would say those are the basics, okay? And if we lean into that with open and curious about whatever the journey might present, connect with all of it, even if we resist it, that's a connection to the self. So In internal family systems language, maybe some of you are familiar with that. You know, there are many selves, good parts, bad parts, protectors, firefighters, all kinds of names, but we all have different parts of ourselves, right? And we have fear about connecting to some of our more challenging selves, things that we're ashamed of, things we don't want people to know about, things we wish weren't a part of us. You know, we exile them. We exile the experiences away from, we don't want to look. The medicine says, hey, take a look. That's great information. Not always easy. But if you come into it with curiosity and self-compassion, you know, you can begin to work with that. You can begin to have a conversation with your demons. Okay? In that safety, you have a fluid experience of sitting next to your demon, okay, and saying, okay, what are you about? Tell me. Because there's nothing threatening. You know, I say this to my clients all the time. What are you afraid of before we start a ketamine journey? I don't know, something scary. I'm like, we are in this one room. We're like, is anything scary here? It's all in here, what we're scared of. So it's about preparation, our attitude towards the journey, the invitation of curiosity, the paying attention, how we honor it. We can learn from the Sonoy tribes, thank you, Rachel, approach to dreams. They're indigenous tribes in Malaysia currently in existence who are known for being free of crime, mental illness, and distractions around materialism. Their children are encouraged not only to remember and to report their dreams, but to behave in a positive way while dreaming and fight when monsters come after them, to sit next to the monster, to confront and conquer the danger, and advance towards a positive outcome. Andrew Holochuk in Dream Yoga talks about lucid dreaming as a way of extending the dream. And I have a little trouble with lucid dreaming, I'll just admit. I think it's a little bit about controlling the dream. That's my little editorial. I prefer to just submit to the dream and to the psychedelic journey. But there are ways to direct both. And to me, it's about attitude, going in and then letting go. But instructions about the dreams can be applied to the medicine journey, which is be inquisitive, commit to remembering, let go of the distinctions around duality, about what's real and what's not, have a natural curiosity, make friends with the devil or your unknown fear. It has beauty in its own existence. You want to understand it, what it is that you're afraid of. And then the real practice is to close your eyes and see what shows itself. And Steve Eisenstadt says, with eyes closed, there's a different kind of intelligence, not so filtered through our mind or through our best hopes or intentions, not necessarily part of rational thinking, but which offers new perspective and potential, shifting our way of being in the world. I really encourage clients in the psychedelic experience to have eye mask on, because the world is beautiful and there's plenty to look at, but what you're missing is all this important stuff in here, if you're there, and if that's what you're there to see. So we close our eyes and we go towards the bigger image of whatever appears and see it fully in all its dimensions and colors. And in dream tending, what we do is not just see the experience, but make it come alive. We ask questions of it. We talk to it. We say, what are you going to do next, devil? You know, what are you here to show me? You believe in it as an expression of yourself. It becomes very real. And we can make this happen in the psychedelic journey, both during the medicine time and afterwards. And to ask questions, to attend, to stretch your imagination, to put your attention on, okay, what happened in your dream or your journey? And don't just pop out of it. How do you feel when you're awakening? What is your energy like? What do you hold in your body? What do you recognize from the experience that is true in your life? Look at the links, the images, the content. Is it possible something like this could happen to you literally or symbolically in the future? Do you want to make it happen? You know, here's the integration. What action will you take? These are fair questions, both for the dream and the psychedelic journey, because they show us what lies ahead. They show us our challenges and opportunities, our possibilities. And we can create from that. Speak of creating. You can turn your dreams, your psychedelic journeys into stories or talk like this, into music, dance, mime, art, theater. All kinds of creative energy can come from that. But the capacity to be open is key in bringing awareness to the inner life of the story moving within you and the images that present themselves. Increasing your capacity to remember. I'm almost done, I promise. Stay in the tail of your journey or your dream. Don't come out of it too quickly because there's precious material there. And understand that whatever's happening is an important part of the multidimensional you. And as the medicine winds down, just spend time with yourself and your body, trying to recall and record, keep a journal. And just as a little side note for some of you, how many therapists are in the room? A few. Okay, I have a whole other training for us, but just a few notes on sort of maybe what the therapist can do is primarily just be present. Your full embodied presence is what's needed. Your compassion, your non-judgment, your reassuring calm, your helping people trusting you, the medicine, and their inner healer. You have to believe in that to be able to guide someone through a journey, because they will know your attunement, you're being able to sit with silence, you're being able to stay quiet and don't interpret. Above all, it's very different than psychotherapy. You're not interpreting, you're listening. You're being present. As time goes by in the integration period, you can help guide interpretations, and that's a whole different experience than coming forward with your own. But you have to be very careful not to shut down the meaning of what it is to the dreamer or the journeyer. Attending to your dreams or your psychedelic medicine journey is not separate from attending to your life. Life itself is just a dream, as we sang. It's an altered, non-ordinary state all the time. Here, if you attend to your inner story, your inner mythology, your relational self in the world, to your own creative life force, which each one of us have, and if we reflect and associate to everything that's happened in the journey, and with this, my bias with a skilled facilitator, the message will have meaning. It will become purposely integrated into your life. So there's a quote here from the renowned artist Noah Purifoy, inscribed on a plaque at the Watts Tower, which says, "One does not have to be a visual artist to utilize creative potential. Creativity can be an act of living, a way of life, and a formula for doing the right thing. And yes, the act of surviving is a creative act. So may you see your life this way. Engage with your dreams, with your psychedelic experiences, and your day-to-day. It's all one big creative act." Thank you for being here.
As you describe the journeys, they sound those are interior journeys. Do you ever have journeys, or are there journeys that are take you outside, working on problems that are exterior problems, which
You mean like fixing your roof or something?
Maybe, I don't know. It could be anything. It could be anything.
Well, I have this. I think you can do art. I think that's a creative. I think your senses are a little bit tangled sometimes, so you don't want to go anywhere unsafe, I guess, is my bias. The beauty of nature is incredible in psychedelic experiences, and can very much be appreciated in the highest level of attunement under the medicines. So I'm not saying that's a bad idea. I think it's a wonderful idea. I'm just saying it's a different idea than a psychotherapeutic psychedelic journey where you're really wanting to find out about yourself. Does that answer your question?
I was just a question.
Yeah.
I was listening to what you were saying.
Yeah, and I really want to be clear. Recreational psychedelics is fantastic. The word recreation comes from recreate. So there's nothing bad there as long as you stay safe and are with someone safe. And I mean about like getting in cars and being at concerts and all that stuff. So I'm on the cautious side of things. But
As I said, I was just listening to your descriptions, and they were all interior exploration.
well, you're connecting to the interior self, which is also about connecting to the limitless unity of the universe, and the world is breathing with us. And I think on a psychedelic experience, you can very much connect to that unity, and I find it in nature, in a very profound way. But you can see it in a piece of wood; it's breathing. It's breathing. You know, so your sense of that is certainly heightened with eyes open.
Thank you. I'm enjoying what you have to say. If somebody has 3 or 4 main issues they recognize they have in themselves that they're dealing with, can they come to a therapist like you and say, I want to deal with issue number 3 in my session?
They do it all the time, every single time.
Oh, and that works?
And sometimes it works.
Okay.
That's all I know.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes they're like, wow, that was a great experience, totally not what I expected, but something else happened. You know, just yesterday, someone came in wanting to connect with an early trauma that she feels is blocked, and she had this amazing experience of loving her body, which has had a lot of actual real physical challenge. She had a stroke, she had a lot of physical limitations, and her whole experience was about the beauty of her body. So it wasn't what she planned. What is it? You can't always get what you want, but you get what you need, right? She got what she needed. She got what she needed. It was beautiful. So I say, bring your intentions, hold them loosely.
Gotcha. Well, what if somebody is interested in experimenting with this therapy but would like maybe to have 1 or 2 sessions? Can they do that? And what is your approximate cost for that, if I may ask?
For you, a deal. It's pricey. It's pricey. The clinical evidence is that people benefit, and I'm talking about ketamine-assisted psychotherapy because that's the medicine I use professionally, is for 6 rounds. So rounds meaning medicine session, integration within a day or so. And do it again the following week. I spread it out over 6 weeks. Some people do it more consolidated. Because one journey is an opening. It's not necessarily everything that you might be able to access. And it's, you know, it's, to me, once you start that process, you're opening, and then you're opening even more, and you're opening even more. So you get a lot kind of bang for your buck if you do more than less. Now, there are people who have done 1, and I'm okay with that if that's what people choose, and that's what you will get as well. And people benefit from 1. I mean, look, I had that 1 psychedelic experience change my life. It's still changing my life. So. Not yet. I think, for better or worse, it will probably get there. I mean, look over the horizon. A year from now, MDMA, psilocybin, very likely legalized for psychotherapeutic use. It's a problem, though, when pharmacies, big pharma, and insurance companies get involved. So I'm not actually looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to somehow finding a way to make it more accessible for people who can't afford it. But here's what I'll say about the affordability. I really believe this. I believe it with all my heart. So if I did 7 years of psychotherapy in 7 hours, think of all the money I saved. I'm really not kidding. So people are short-sighted. Wow, that ketamine costs so much. I'm like, yeah, you know how many years of work you're going to be able to do in a short amount of time?
Oh, yeah. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, life is a dream. This is a big question, but I'm just interested in your response. You made me think about the difference between the dream state, the psychedelic state, and the psychotic state. And I was wondering if you could say anything about that.
Well, there's a lot to say about that. I mean, there is a sense of when we have synesthesia, for example, the confusion of senses, it is a bit like experiencing psychosis. Or when we see things that are not, we're not sure if they're there. I'm not going to say they're not there because I don't actually know. Is it psychosis? Is it psychedelics? Is it real? I mean, I can see the earth breathing. I can actually see the earth breathing. Am I imagining it? Is it real? Is it coming from me? Is it coming from the earth? Hard to know. I think the distinction, I mean, as a therapist, you know that. The distinction is in psychotic state, you don't know that you don't know. You are sure the voices are there telling you to do something. When I'm, in a psychedelic journey, I have generally the awareness that this is a journey and this is what I'm seeing. And if not, you have your therapist sitting right next to you saying, this is a journey, this is what you're seeing. Yeah. Oh, sorry. There's.
Typical single journey last, and are there any physical hangover effects?
Well, I'll speak to the ketamine journey because that's different than some of the other medicines. And again, it depends on dose sometimes, but also metabolism. So I have to say a lot of the answers to the questions are usually depends. I don't know. It's the beauty of the experience, however. Typically, a ketamine journey at a moderate dose will last an hour and a half. I always leave 3 hours of space so that we have plenty of time to prepare, to go into it, to ease our way out, and then have conversation on the way out. And nobody's rushed, and nobody leaves my office until they're ready. Nobody. So again, I'm very cautious. The other medicines are a lot longer. So ketamine's kind of, it's very efficient. Let's just say that. You can have a very deep, transformative psychedelic experience and be done. You go to work the next day. So the lingering, I really don't encourage anybody to plan anything after a ketamine journey. You could, people do. But it's, again, you want to hold on to the gold, right? You want to process, you want to write down, you want to reflect, you want to take care of your body. Some people have lingering sleepiness. Some people have lingering alertness. Some people are activated. Some people are just dead tired. Some people get headaches. So again, it varies. Some people said, I felt fine. I just went to the supermarket. And I don't advise people to do anything afterwards. So.
Really amazing. And I wanted to also comment on this question by this lovely person. I really love that question. And about the psychotic and difference in this dream state. A quote that I've always loved that I learned in grad school was that the mystic swims in the same waters that the psychotic drowns. It's powerful, right? Yeah, it's like, I think it's just about how somebody holds the experience. The experience can seem very similar. It's about how the person holds it. And I think a big part of that is also how the community holds it, how society treats the person having the experience and what meaning we ascribe to that experience. Yeah. So, I could say a lot about that, but I just wanted to give that.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that. First, that quote is so beautiful. Thank you, Valerie. But also,
the mystic swims in the same waters that the psychotic drowns.
I also appreciate that you talk about community. It's really important. And again, Jacob, kudos to you. I mean, you have really created a community here where we can talk about these things. It's so crucial and so impressive because every time I'm in a community of people who want to talk about this, we're talking about really important things like the meaning of life, the afterlife, mystical experiences, unity and connection with all things. I mean, what else would we want to be talking about? And so the support of the community to say you're not crazy if you see the wood breathing over there. You're not crazy. You're connecting with reality as it appears to you. Is really helpful. Whereas, when in mental illness, you're very alone with it, and you're being drugged up to cover it. So I'm very grateful for the psychedelic community. More questions?
I appreciated your talk. I was just absolutely riveted the whole time. I have two questions. One is sort of a comment and a question. I tried ketamine. I had 3 journeys, and I decided to pursue it for anxiety, extreme anxiety, and the integration part was the tough part for me. And I had amazing journeys, but it didn't really shift my level of anxiety. And I don't know. And then I started to hear that ketamine really treats depression, maybe more so than anxiety. And then, of course, I did 3 and probably could have used more. So is that the case about really being able to help depression more than anxiety?
We don't have enough research on anything to know definitively. It is sort of famously presented as most viable for treatment-resistant depression. People definitely have reduced anxiety as a result of it. And again, I don't think we can talk about it's a group, it's a community. It's the ketamine, it's the intention, it's the psyche of the journeyer, it's the therapist, it's the setting, and all those conditions have to be right to achieve whatever state you're trying to get to. So I don't know. I can't weigh in. Is it ketamine or not? And for some people, some medicines work differently than others. So you might have to play around a little bit.
And my other quick question, which maybe isn't really a quick question, is we're talking about psychedelic. You have the ketamine-assisted, which I think is an amazing avenue. Then we're talking about psychedelic experiences, and everyone's talking about it. And I would really like to try psilocybin and microdosing. And I know people have access. I don't know where the heck to get access, but we're all talking about this. Where everyone has the psychedelic experiences. Where are you getting it?
I'd say, I hope we're not being recorded. I'd say stick around for the networking afterwards.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere, and that's a good thing and a problem.
Yeah, I get it.
Because
I get it, but
setting safety, emotional safety.
Somehow I'm not plugged in to the right too. But thank you.
Stick around, as Jacob says. Rachel, did you have a?
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask you if you were working with a therapist when you had your ketamine experience. Okay.
A medical doctor.
Okay, that's all I was just. Oh, a medical doctor.
Okay, so I have a bias around that too.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for the medical people, because they really do know ketamine, especially if they've done emergency medical work. And they're hardly ever trained in psychotherapy. And unless they're a psychiatrist, and even then the training is sometimes limited. So we go to a medical doctor and expect them to be everything. A medical doctor can't be everything. A medical doctor knows the medicine and the body. The therapist knows the psyche and how to work relationally. So a lot of people go to a ketamine clinic and they stick a needle in you and you go under and they're like nothing happened, or it was physiologically something probably did happen, but psychologically, spiritually, emotionally, you didn't get the help. One more?
Okay, one more.
Oh, there's 2 more. Can we do 2 more? Because I don't.
You talk a lot about
it up, or not give it up, let it go. Let it go is it's very difficult. I see that as a process. Taking whatever may help, letting go. It sounds so simple, but control is so part of our lives because we have to control how we live and et cetera. So would that be a really nice way to begin if you're going to dose or whatever? Just letting go, a theme of letting go, I think would be nice.
I often start, music, I forgot to mention that. Music is such an important part of helping let go. And I'm always playing a ketamine curated soundtrack while the person is in the journey, because the music really helps you let go. You just ride along with wherever the music takes you, but the breathing, and I'm with you. Letting go sounds so simple. It's the hardest thing on the planet, and it's a moment. It's not every day. It's moment to moment practice. Yeah. There was one more here, and then last one.
Okay, so 2 questions. Both you've touched on just. No. I have 2 questions, both of which you've touched on a little bit. My first one is I had major surgery about three months ago, and I was in the hospital for 9 days. I was on a ketamine drip for 4 days. First 2 days, I was completely out of it. Then they turned it down. But I was wondering what you just said. I definitely did not have a psychedelic journey, and let's just say I would have known. Why? Is it only because there wasn't a psychologist? Or I'm sorry, a therapist to guide me? Or why would that happen? Because I'm thinking, I had a lot of it.
It's used, in a really big dose to prevent severe pain.
Yeah.
You might just be in a sleep state, so you're not having that active imagination triggered as much. I don't really know the explanation about why some people it's an anesthetic, so it will help calm your body and remove, diffuse the pain. Why some people have wild psychedelic experience and some people have nothing, don't know. I think the mindset could have something to do with it. If you came to my office and we did the ketamine, we'd be having a lot of conversations first.
I'm thinking I'm a little disappointed because if I had the ketamine, it's like, what the heck? It didn't happen. But my other question is about the difference between microdosing and ketamine therapy as far as the journey, what the difference is.
Again, I have a bias. Microdosing has not been demonstrated to do anything except placebo effect, which is great. Placebo is super great. Okay, it's probably the best drug invented. The research is not out. I don't recommend ketamine microdosing. I think it's not a medicine you want to take on a daily basis. But I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical doctor.
No, it was the difference between ketamine and microdosing with mushrooms.
Well,
Psilocybin.
that's apples and oranges. Are you talking about ketamine microdosing?
No, the ketamine journey versus the microdosing with psilocybin.
Again, it's apples and oranges, because microdosing is about a small, teeny dose that you barely feel.
Yeah.
When I'm talking about the ketamine journey, I'm talking about a full-blown medicine experience. So you can have a full-blown mushroom experience or a microdose of mushrooms. You can have a full-blown ketamine or a microdose of ketamine.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And the idea with microdosing is James Fadiman, the sort of leader of microdosing, said, if you feel it, you're not microdosing. If you feel it, you're not microdosing.
Taking too much.
You shouldn't feel it.
Taking too much.
I see they're gonna have the hook come. So thank you, everybody. You're really fantastic.